Land. Short version, boats out up here to our right. It's going to take 2,500 people to Michigan City. To our right, coming up is one building built in two phases, 60 years apart. Third on the right, bay windows, postmodern, 87, A. Smith, Skidmore, Owens and Merrill. Two-thirds on the left, all the ornamentation, beautiful columns on top. Neoclassical, 1927, Graham Anderson, Probst and White. So 87 respects 27 without repeating 27. Totally different flavor in this next gap. On the corner, the Art Deco LaSalle Wacker, 1930, limestone cladding and setbacks. Versus right next door, the contention where Abraham Lincoln was nominated. Dead center, 333 West Wacker, 1983, oldest of these three. While you're here, if you have time, do explore the Riverwalk here to our right. As you can now walk from Lake transition back to the main branch, in front of us in all of her glory, a full frontal view of the Merchandise Mart. 1 block wide, half block deep, 25 stories tall. The taller, pink, granite clad building here to our right with the barrels on top is this an office building with a very unusual shape. You start off with a 6-sided base, you end up with an 8-sided tower. It just goes by its address, 311 South Wacker. The barrels on top serve no structural purpose, they're there for decoration only. On the right, in our first passing, it is a partial map of downtown. South branch of the Chicago River, red dot is this building where it sits in a street grid, just saying you are here. North branch, main branch, where all three lines come together, Wolf Point. Now, I'll be honest, pre-map, no one cared about this building. Now you can't not talk about it, so you know what I know. To our right, in this next gap, the granddaddy of them all. A beautiful, albeit neck-breaking and breathtaking view, as you can see, of the Sears / don't you ever call about that other name in my presence, Tower. Tallest building in the world from 1974 to 1996. Designed by architect Bruce Graham and engineer Fazlur Khan, Skidmore, Owens and Merrill. 110-story tall office building rising to a height of 1451, just to the roof. Broadcast antennas, which those are and not considered architectural, they don't count the height. If they did, 1729. We have the 4 boxes there on the west face called the Ledge, observation deck 103, glass bottoms and a great view, 1,300 plus feet straight down. The building itself is composed of 9 tubes bundled together. As the building itself ascends in height, those tubes drop off at different levels, helps with the wind load and sway and overall strength of the building. On a crystal clear day, air-wise, you can see 4 states from the top. Illinois will be beyond, Indiana to the southeast, Michigan to the east across the lake, Wisconsin to our north. Daylight hours are 3 minutes longer on top versus ground level because of your elevation. The building itself was engineered to sway up to 18 inches in very, very, very high winds. It lost its title of being the world's tallest back in 1996 when the Twin Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia opened up by Caesar Pelli. They have ornamental spires on top like Trump Tower, the Franklin Empire State, which count. Again, Sears and Big John are broadcast antennas which don't count. That's pretty much like me standing on my tippy toes and wearing high heels and claiming to be 5'7", which is a total downright lie. Never have been, never will be. 5'4.5", thank you very much. It doesn't matter though, we've all been blown out of the water by the Middle East in the Burj Khalifa over in Dubai, which is 2,717 feet. That's putting John Hancock on top of Sears. Designed by Adrian Smith, same cat with a Trump Tower and the Franklin. To our right, twins. But do notice how the corners are serrated like a knife, giving you 16 corner offices per floor, times 2 buildings, times 40 floors. So no fighting amongst the executives as to who's the best view, the best office, plus corner offices command superior rent. Views in more than one direction. To our left, down Madison in this gap, a 2-tone blue glass building that some say remind them of an oversized cash register, some say a waterfall. Postmodern, 1987, German-born Chicago-based architect Helmut Jahn. What's cool about this one is its engineering. We have that steel truss on top. That steel truss helps to support and suspend the southwest corner. Under the southwest corner at the base at ground level is a switching point where the train tracks crisscross each other. Very dense. Not a lot of room to drill down for the caissons and foundation. They weren't going to move train tracks for a building. Along the river's edge, no problem. Southwest corner, problem. Instead of the southwest corner being fully supported from the ground up, it's also partially suspended from the top down via that steel truss. That southwest corner is being partially cantilevered. They have built over the past few years. The metal panels here to our right came off the old building that got torn down. If you have have time while you're here, kind of walk through that space. Again, designed by Getch Partners, same architecture firm. Then the building to our right in the gap with kind of blue and purple glass, 155 North Lacker, 2009. And again, same firm, there was 150 here to right. The elegant white glazed terracotta clad Wrigley building. The section on the river's 1921, northern half 1924. Spanish Revivalist design with some French Renaissance elements. It's clad with 6 different shades of white glazed terracotta with fireproof baked clay. This is the building that Chewing Gum built, designed by Graham Anderson Probst and White. Currently, the architecture firm of Perkins and Will calls this building home. The tall reflective glass building directly here in front of us with that needle-like spire on top is currently Chicago's second tallest building. The height does include the very top and tip of the spire. Trump International Hotel and Tower, completed back in 2009, designed by Adrian Smith, formerly of Skidmore, Owens & Merrill. The building itself ascends in height. You have setbacks at different levels that relate to the roof lines of surrounding buildings, including this unbelievably huge, this ginormous building here to our right called the Merchandise Mart, designed by Graham Anderson Probst and White, the Art Deco style. Completed back in 1931. At that time, this was the world's largest building, having more than 4 million square feet of space within its walls. So massive, like 14 years ago, the building had its own zip code. 60654. That's out into the river called Wolf Point, where the 3 branches come together. Main branch we just came down, north branch to our right, south branch to our left. This area has transitioned dramatically over the past 10 years. Brand new, brand new, brand new, brand new, brand new, brand new. So, what are they erecting here to our right with all that steel? Once everything is said and done, the roughly 60-story Salesforce Tower. It's going to rise to a height of about 835 feet once everything is said and done. They finished the sculpture here to our right this past fall. I think it's called Constellation by Santiago Calatrava. Now, in front of us here to our right, the building that draws everyone's attention. The total diva of this area, 150 North Riverside by Getch Partners. The architecture firm is headquartered here. The building itself is a pretty good example of form follows function. The site helps to dictate the shape and design of the building. Once again here, a very slender piece of land to work with. You're wedged in between the river and train tracks. At a conventional office building been designed where the columns come straight down. On this side, they would slam along the river's edge. On the other side, into the train tracks. This is called a core-supported building. The main central concrete core takes on the weight and load of the tower. Those diagonal beams are the transfer of that load. So here to our left, about 4 years ago, was a 5-story utilitarian building from the mid-1950s by Graham Anderson Probst and White. Whole building torn down, in its wake now rises a roughly 55-story tall office building, 110 North Wacker by Getch Partners. Same firm who did the diva with a very cool base. Building here to our left, also a very dynamic base on the riverside with these tripod-like columns. This is the tallest office building built in Chicago over the past 30 years. Rises to a height of roughly 820. As we clear Washington here to our left, the Civic Opera Building by Graham Anderson Probst and White, Art Deco. Looks like a giant chair or a throne. Seat portion of the theater and stage, the wings of the building of the armrest, the tower of the backrest. No, of course, it did not misspell building, that's Latin. Chiseled here in my lifetime. Near the blank wall here to our left 20 years ago, there was some minor consideration about perhaps showing movies on the wall to watch the plaza across the way. Nothing materialized. When built, they used river water to raise and lower the stage inside. You're also going to have some carvings here and more carvings above of comedy and tragedy. What's tragic, that $20 million building opened up November 4th, 1929. A few days after the stock market crash, leading to the Great Depression, Civic Opera went bankrupt soon thereafter. It's now home to the Lyric Opera. They're very successful. Back to our right. That means the developers bought the air above the train tracks from the railroad companies to build and develop buildings above that space. Very common in big cities. Again, the tracks below go to and from Union Station. It's a short, classically inspired building. A quarter of a block to our right, this next gap from 1925. I know a lot of you all aren't from Chicago, but some of you all, especially the adults of a certain age, have seen some of these buildings on TV, but you may not realize it. If any of you all have ever seen The Untouchables, 1987, Sean Connery and Kevin Costner, there's a scene at the end where the baby stroller falling down the stair steps in a shootout. That was filmed in the Great Hall of Union Station, a very nice public space that just underwent a $30 million restoration. So if you like grand interiors and have time, check it out. Initially, Union Station was going to have a 20-story tower on top of the base, but because of the Great Depression and Second World War, the tower never built. And to our right, the fourth and final of the Gateway buildings from 1983 by Jim DeStefano, who at that time worked for Skidmore. A pretty good example of architectural contextualism. The building fits into the site and surrounding. A graceful curve in facade, a slight bend in the river in front of us. Green glass in the building, green water of the river. I know, at least half of you all, at one point in life over the last 14 years, have possibly seen The Dark Knight, the Batman movie filmed here in Chicago. Opening scene, Joker and his gang, they're gonna rob Gotham National Bank. They bust out a window in an office building, the building here to our right. Use a zip line to go to the rooftop of Gotham National Bank when they bust it with a school bus. That's next, but in reality, the former main post office for the city of Chicago, built in phases and finally completed back in 1932. Art Deco, Graham Anderson Probst and White, was the world's busiest and biggest post office. Chicago did the biggest. We were the mail order and catalog capital of the world, with stores like Sears, Marshall Field, Montgomery Ward, Spiegel, using catalogs in their heyday. You're talking roughly 2.7 million square feet of space, or about 62 acres all under one roof in a perfect spot, on top of train tracks. Could easily load freight cars with mail. The building itself, though, was decommissioned back in 1996. For the most part, had been empty ever since, for the past 24 years. It was auctioned off by the government back in 2009 to a very eccentric European billionaire developer with the name of Bill Davies for $24 million. Design 1. Submitted by two New York architects, John Meetow and Raymond Hood. Raymond Hood went on to help design Rockefeller Center. As we near Michigan Avenue here to our right, the elegant white glazed terracotta-clad Wrigley Building. The section on the river's 1921, northern half 1924. Spanish revivalist design with some French Renaissance elements. It's clad with 6 different shades of white glazed terracotta and is fireproof baked clay. This is the building that Chewing Gum built, designed by Graham Anderson Probst and White. Currently, the architecture firm of Perkins & Will calls this building home. Tall reflective glass building directly here in front of us with that inline spire on top is currently Chicago's second tallest building. The height does include the very top and tip of the spire. Trump International Hotel and Tower, completed back in 2009, designed by Adrian Smith, formerly of Skidmore, Owens & Merrill. The building itself ascends in height. You have setbacks at different levels that relate to the roof lines of surrounding buildings. First setback to the roof line of Wrigley. Second setback for a building across the river. Third setback for the building right next door. Now, personally, in this area, I do love the color, texture, and flow of all 4 buildings side by side on the angle. Daytime hours, the glass is bright and reflective. When dark, it is clear and transparent. You see directly in that space.